are Sunny and Roy.
Sonny and Roy.
Sunny and Roy.
When in Chester? Did you
That's where I was gonna go, but I let it,
come?
I let
Do
it
it
pass.
for you.
That's
I
for a
did.
moose. That's a nice name for a moose.
That was bad.
Yeah, well, I know where I got
Oh,
the cats.
he'll be talking about
Yeah.
a lot of it in a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a feeling they're gonna have to tear that house down because they're never gonna get the air and smell out of it. Never. It's soaked into the wood.
Yep.
You'll never get it out.
Looks like we're online, everyone, just so you're aware.
Let's see, we have the monitor. Does it work?
Yeah.
One behind you?
Yeah.
Does it plug in with that? Does it?
I
does
think
do
it
the
just
same?
mirrors. It should be all set up to just, everything should mirror whatever.
No problem.
Not that we're gonna see that tonight.
Good evening. I'd like to call the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 to order.
Candace Bouchard.
Jonathan Morehart.
Candy Perez.
Josh Kelly.
Todd Archelashi.
Glenn Albanesius. Steven Sedlak.
Linda Grappo.
Jack Bork.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hopefully my voice holds out for this because I can feel it fading. Agenda review. Anyone have anything to add?
The only thing I wonder suggesting here, when we're going into executive session and then we have selectmen's comments, wonder if we should have selectmen's comments before we go into executive session in case somebody wants to hear anything.
Makes sense.
Just a reversal of that, so if anybody wants to hear something.
Anyone have an issue with moving selectmen's comments and reports from item 13 up to in front of executive session? Anyone else?
And this is a pretty standard procedure, given our executives, our habit with executive sessions. But after the executive session, we may need to return to 10B, consider and possibly act on the appointment of a town attorney.
Can I have approval, actually, do you want to approve the minutes first before the public hearing?
That'd be fine.
Okay, let's move the approval of minutes up to number 4. Then we can get to the public hearing. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting on June 20th?
So moved.
Thank you, Jonathan. Is there a second?
Good.
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Now moving on to the public hearing regarding proposed charter revision changes. Okay, in our packets in front of us, we have the proposed changes for the items we requested them to look at. We can do that. Would you, Charter, don't you want to make a brief overview of your changes and your recommendations?
Can you hear me fine?
Yep.
Okay, great. So our brief charge was to sort of simplify the language regarding the individuals approved to be within each cohort, each board or group right within there. So some of the language we felt was perfectly fine for them, that we felt sometimes we needed certain things from outside of town, expertise for certain areas like EDC, things like that. And other things we felt it was important that we made sure that they were residents of the town if they were going to be part of that board or commission. We also felt it was important to reword the definition of a voter or elector in the town, because the initial definition, in my opinion, was sort of inappropriate in that it used the noun within the definition of itself. So we changed that to be simply a person who is a registered voter in the town of Winchester or a property owner over the age of 18 with a tax assessment against them not less than $1,000. So we didn't really change anything with that except clarify that we really mean you're registered to vote in town, you're an adult, and then, or you own property in town over the age of 18 as well. So it wasn't exclusionary or even really more inclusionary. It would probably pass a little bit easier through the lawyer's side, the way it's written. So if you look at one like the example number 602 on page 2 of my draft, it may not be on page 2 of yours depending on how it was printed, but it was the EDC. We looked at another town nearby and we felt that the Economic Development Commission, their definition and their charter kind of really fit what we might want for our town, which was to say people who have qualifications within a certain set of categories to sort of help build up our town. It doesn't have to be filtered only by those, but that's the general idea we were trying to put in the wording to say, hey, we're really looking for people on this board who have expertise in commercial, residential, business communities, architectural and public relations experience, things like that. We also removed the line that says that they may appoint employees necessary. We felt that was a little confusing and open for reinterpretation compared to some other sections of the charter that involved appointed employees or hired employees in other areas. There was no information about a chain of command or reporting structure or anything like that in this, so we felt that that was unnecessary. Some of the things we felt didn't need to change because they were pretty well written. Parks and Rec boards, for instance, we felt really did a good job at explaining exactly what the intent was with who should be on the board. We felt as though we would only confuse it more to say something such as you needed to be a resident of the town, when in reality we could have someone on the Park and Rec board with experience in recreational activities that, you know, from a commercial standpoint maybe, or somebody appointed by the board that doesn't live in town. Zoning Board of Appeals, we felt we should just simply add the resident qualification to that, resident elector. So someone who is over the age of 18, registered voter in town, which would be on the voter list, or a, yeah, that works. Water and sewer was another one that we kind of did a little bit different, and that was we felt that they should be water and sewer users. We felt it was inappropriate for people who don't use the service to be able to set the rate at which other people would pay for the service. And we felt as though that was a good change to do. Housing Authority, we were a little back and forth on it because of the Connecticut general statutes with that. We felt that that would outrank anything we could add to it. We felt simple and short was best there. Of course, pending lawyer approval as well. Planning and zoning, same. We just added the word resident. Fire department, we felt it was perfectly fine. Being a firefighter myself here in town, I felt that though our bylaws within the fire department were a perfect definition of, well, not perfect, but a apropos definition of what would fit to the fire department's needs. Anything we added here could contradict what was necessary to make for changes in the bylaws later, which would require another commission or another vote. And inlands and wetlands, we simply said resident electors of the town of Winchester as well. And then the final was the addition of the town clerk. We took the recommendation that was in the original packet to recommend that we hire the town clerk, and we amended the salaries section number 801 to state, to remove the line that the town clerk shall receive a salary determined by the Board of Selectmen, because the town clerk would then be reporting to the town manager at that time. So that's the overview. Oh, I did, I'm sorry. Yep. Yep. We, on the lawyer's recommendation from the initial packet that we were given, in the very beginning, we changed the name of Board of Tax Review to the Board of Assessment Appeals throughout its definition as well, because that, we took the recommendation of the lawyer, and we felt that that better fit what we would need. It's a draft, open for,
Yeah, I think for the town clerk, there have to be modifications to section 202 and 203. You could look at those, Candy, because it references the town clerk as an elected official.
Is that 202?
202
so in addition
and
to where we did
203.
salaries, we'd have to add 202 and 203.
Yeah, 202, town clerk for a term of 2 years. It's 202B.
I see, yep, we
202B,
missed that.
You said, what was the other,
Yep.
Candace?
Absolutely.
203, term of elected official, except the town clerk and something,
Yeah, so that was, so 203 would just
Yeah,
change that to.
203 would remove the town clerk line.
Yeah.
right.
Sure, absolutely,
The
202 and
langu-
203.
The language, except that the town clerk shall have office 2 years from the first Monday of January succeeding the election until his successor shall be elected and qualified.
Sure, absolutely, that makes perfect sense. Good eye.
The question I have for all of us is, where do we determine, in reading all of this, where on the charter does it say who the Board of Selectmen appoint? So in some of these, it has the qualification of a resident elector. But in most of them, it doesn't say who.
The Board of Assessment Appeals, or formerly Tax Review and Recreation, has no indication of whether it's a resident, whether it's somebody with specific skills.
Correct.
Whether it could be a part-time person, whether it's somebody that just pays $1,000. And I think, you know, for us, one of the charges to the committee was, because those things matter when you start appointing people.
Okay, so we wanted to add a filter in addition to places where it would be appointed as
Well, the
well.
Board of, right now, the Board of Tax Review, right, Candace? That's what you're talking about, right?
I'm actually talking about every one of these commissions. It's lacking in identification until you get to the definition. See, the definition is like,
Can you give me an example where one is lacking?
Oh,
Like,
sure.
I'm looking at like 604 ZBA right now.
just look at 602, economic
602.
development. It doesn't
Two.
say who qualifies to be on the board and commission, not what you're looking for.
Right, I understand what you're saying there, okay.
Okay.
Yep,
So nowhere does it say resident.
that's true. Now, in this particular one, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt,
You're not
Okay,
interrupting.
okay.
I interrupt
So,
usually.
no, it's okay. In this particular one, actually, we went back and forth on that, and we decided, especially with EDC, you could cherry pick somebody who has land use or architectural expertise outside of the town, right? So in this particular case, it could be one where there could be a need for somebody that you know lives, anywhere else. So we felt to add the resident elector in there, or even just the elector, would tunnel vision that or trim that down a little bit too tight, potentially. We did talk about that.
So I guess that's something the board has to decide. If they want-
Absolutely, sure.
They want non-residents, and what quantity, what percentage of that board to be that? Or
True.
can they only be alternates
True.
with an option to vote? Or
That's where the-
something like that.
absolutely, that's a great piece of
I'm
feedback.
concerned that if we don't have Winstead residents, I'm not against Winstead businesses
Mm-hmm.
that may not be a resident.
Well, that might be the qualifier, either a resident.
Right.
Or a business located, by.
An owner of a
located
business in town.
Located in Winston, owned the person owns that business here in town.
Who is a property owner in Winstead, but
That- yeah,
may
yeah.
not be a resident of Winstead.
So that would still fit the definition of an elector in this case. If the definition change of elector is approved, an elector is someone who is any person who is a registered voter in the town or a property owner over the age of 18 who jointly is liable to the town for taxes over $1,000.
So I'm wondering if we have to
So just the word
add
elector in
that,
there.
that into the qualifier for the selectmen to appoint, not into each individual commission.
So the powers of the selectmen to appoint
Right, it
would
might-
say that in any of these in general, they could appoint an elector.
Or there could be a restriction in that, yeah, I think we have to look at that, for ourselves, to see how to make sure.
Well, I could come up with a couple proposals. We'll meet and we can email a couple proposals over for.
Well, the way the process is gonna go right now is that you're here doing this public hearing.
Sure.
And, others, people besides us will speak, and then it's later on in our agenda. And then we have one of two things that we do. We either adopt what you have and move it, or we return it back to you with our comments, right? So, chances are, if I was a psychic, like who's it, Johnny Carson with the card, I would say that probably towards the end of this meeting, we're probably gonna send it back to you with.
Absolutely. That's
with
great.
some information that needs to be clarified for, well,
Sure.
we know this end of the table so far, but I'm assuming down there too, but, just to get better clarification on, like for me, the two that weren't there, for Candace, maybe it's everybody, and then whatever else people has. So that'll be the process.
Great.
Right, and then, if we move it to referendum, that becomes the other part of the process and notification and how it's gonna be written and how it's all gonna be explained.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's wonderful.
The other piece is water and sewer. So we have board members that don't use water and sewer. Some use just water, and some use water and sewer. So I think if they use either one of the services, that should be a qualifier.
We currently say water or
Oh,
in the change, so
Thank
that
you.
would, in my
I
mind.
read and in
fit
my
that.
mind.
That's okay. That's okay.
My error.
Well, we do call it the Water and Sewer Commission, so that makes sense.
Right, my error. The problem I have with our entire charter and the way it's written is that if I were to redo it, I would redo it where the name of the Board of Commission is, what its function is, who can be elected, like A, B, C, D, E, and, but that's not, what you're tasked to do here at this point. That would be a codification maybe of our own charter, something.
And if I may, adding, we were trying to keep it simplified too. We don't want to make it too complicated for when
Right.
it does finally make it to referendum, to people to sit and stand there for 20 minutes to read everything online.
Sure.
So we try to keep it as narrow.
Oh, exactly, and that's why I think that
Narrow as
there's only two commissions that have a unique requirement to it.
Right.
So I think it should be in the selectmen section,
Right.
not in the commission
Right, it's
necessarily.
really going to be all in your hands to decide
Right.
who's on and who's not on.
Exactly. That's my only points.
I have a question regarding the definitions that you're going to be using. So with the change of the definition, section 1708, when you say definition of voters and electors as used in the charter, elector means any person who is registered voter in the town of Winchester or a property owner at the age of 18 or more. So what I'm reading here is the fact that a person could own a $1,000 car, not be registered in town as a voter, and could serve on a commission.
Yes.
And my thinking is that maybe they ought to have an and instead of an or. If you're going to be an elector, be a registered voter and a property owner of
Okay.
18. Because it's possible that you could have a person of 18 years old who owns one car, pays that, and then could serve on any board. I'm just not sure that.
Sure, sure.
I
I
know
have
that's,
some-
we're trying to be more inclusive, but I'm wondering if the and would be a better phrase than the or.
Well, I have some feedback on that. The and in your case, I think would would exclude the people who do not live in town but own property because they would not be a registered voter and be a taxpayer in town. They could own houses at the lake and not be a registered voter within our town, but let's say they live in Hartford.
That is correct. That's
So-
why the or,
Well, so the or is important here, or a property owner. That's why I feel that we should leave the or in there. The other case is that if someone is not a registered voter, well, that's actually, I'm repeating myself, that's it. If they own a house in town, they should be then able to be involved in the boards that aren't saying we want a resident elector.
so they would not have to be a registered voter.
No, they would most likely be a registered voter in the town that their primary residence is in.
So again, I could own a car here, pay taxes at assessed value of $1,000 or
Sure.
more, and based upon this definition, then be a person that can be appointed.
Yes, and that's actually based upon the current definition as well. All we did was expand the word elector out to be registered voter. That's not a change fundamentally or algorithmically to the current definition. So what you're saying is the way it exists now. But on the other hand, if somebody is not a registered voter, A, we would like them to be, but B, if they live in town and pay taxes in town and they just aren't a registered voter for whatever personal reasons, I think that that is a boundary at which they should be allowed to be a member of a board. They could own a house and not be a registered voter, right? And on the other hand, they could be an 18-year-old person or a 25-year-old single mom with no taxes, but be a registered voter who consume and use the services in town and may have good ideas to help improve them, and should, in my mind, be also allowed. And in my mind, based on my understanding of the current definition, fit that right now. I don't feel that the intent or the scope of that definition changes with this change. I feel we just simply give a reason, we expound upon the word elector within its own definition, and we allow for Mr. Kelly to have a list now of people instead of having to really figure out if you live here. If you're registered to vote in town, you're on the list. That's it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It streamlines the process for determining.
I understand what you're saying. Now, let me think about it some more. I'm just not so sure I have full agreement with that. But,
Okay.
And the other question, I think Candace hit upon this, water or sewer user. In the past, we have had people who have not been water and sewer users and been on the commission. I'm just wondering, what led to the reason of the exclusion of non-users? Just your thinking about that. What led to the?
Tom said, they don't really have skin in the game,
Pricing.
you know, so you're setting a rate for someone that's not even using it.
I'm in agreement with what you're saying. I'm just wondering what led to your thinking
That
about
was
making
that.
that change.
We all were pretty, yeah, we all kind of came to that around the same time. I would not feel comfortable with someone who doesn't use the service setting my rate for that service. I would feel as though they wouldn't understand necessarily what that change would do overall. They may know from the budgetary perspective or the engineering side what a change to a rate would be.
Bill, currently, anybody on the commission not a user?
They have water or sewer.
They do.
Okay, I don't know if in making appointments in the past, Candy, maybe you remember, in making any appointments to that in the past, we ever asked that question first, whether the
No, we didn't.
new appointment was a user.
I think Mr. Nillette, was he?
No, we have not. That hasn't been a determining factor.
We never asked that question,
No,
but
they
now
just
with
added
this,
it
we
in.
would ask that question.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I come from a different perspective, you know, because that's what I'm used to dealing with and seeing in other towns. Everyone that's on the commission either has the water or the sewer, or, so they're involved in it, so they know.
Yeah, no,
Again, so I'm coming from being in my profession, I'm coming from a different aspect.
yeah, I think that the reasoning here is fine. We just have never done that way in the past, and I wanted to understand the movement towards that. And I liked your thinking on that. The one other question that I had, and then I'll give it to anybody else. Let me see. No, I guess that was it. You answered the question on the definition, and that's it. I'm good.
Hey, one other question. If we do not require someone to give us their party affiliation, we have a section 205 on balanced boards.
Yes. I did not see anything in here regarding party affiliation. I felt that that section was an overarching theme that's applicable to all boards and commissions regardless. So I feel that, like you said before about maybe adding a section that says here's who can be appointed, I think that's similar in that this is the logic that's applied.
Well, the challenge we have is if we don't know someone's party affiliation, how can it be a balanced board?
I think that's a very good question. I think party affiliation, in my mind personally, is an almost private, anonymous kind of thing. So I think it's a very difficult question to answer. But if you have a Connecticut general statute that says that it must be, then I think that you as a board could say that that is a requirement. It's a piece of information just like your name and your address and things like that that would be necessary to
Well,
be
on
given.
page 6, section
It's a general state
205,
statute.
That's right.
it has to be.
Right,
minority
exactly. It's
representation
already in
because
there.
It very specifically says any elective or appointed board, council, commission,
Yep.
committee, or similar body of the town shall be
Yeah.
determined in accordance. So what happens, actually what's really happening is not really has anything to do with either political party.
Right.
It has to do with the unaffiliateds on a board now. The number of people that are unaffiliated is over 50% of registered voters are unaffiliated. So can you have a whole board of unaffiliateds? Or do you need to have, but this speaks to political parties, which are technically Democrats and Republicans and any other third party or fourth party that's named and filed with the state as a party. An unaffiliated voter has no party, no group, no posse, they're just themselves. So I would say that one of the things that would
Or
apply
not-
is
not
that we
even a
just can't,
registered voter.
so you can't say, so it even lists the numbers of members on it. So if you have 8, you can't have more than 5 from one party. If you have 6, you can't have more than 4 from one party. And again, the parties would be recognized.
Right, I think that would be one that you might want to, in your feedback to us, ask us to talk to the lawyer in regards to, or go directly to the lawyer yourself.
Well, I think it's really clear.
I do too, but with the concept of unaffiliated, it's
But
bubbling
they're
up.
not part of a party, you're just gonna put more than these party people in there.
True.
So-
I wonder if someone could make the argument that unaffiliated is in and of itself a party, but I know it's not. It would have to be a Connecticut general
No,
statute kind of thing.
The reason behind all this, if you think back to how other towns appoint people to boards and commissions, and you think back to how people used to appoint to boards and commissions in the past here, let's say, before we did this thing the last 6, 7, 8 years, where we want the best people, we've been advertising through the town manager's office. In the past and in other towns, you'll find, and you even have a member on water and sewer who was concerned about, usually the town committee would send forward names for openings, right? So when the town committee sent forward names, it was expected that there'd be a balance, and in other towns, people are elected to the Board of Zoning Appeals, or elected
true.
to planning and zoning. So that's where this is the representation thing comes from, is because at one point in time, the actual political party was more involved in appointment of people to these boards and commissions than we've been practicing in the last 7 or 8 years.
Sure, I think that makes sense.
I mean, it's still fine to have it there. I
Or
mean,
they were sponsored by a party member.
Right, so I think it's good to have the minority representation there just in general, but it doesn't, if you have the right people sitting here, then it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I mean, by right, I mean people that are gonna look at qualifications of a person, people that have community in mind, people that are gonna do, the work of that group.
That's right.
And not
That's right.
anything outside of it.
Yes.
Could I? The word elector has been a term of, been a bugaboo as the years have gone by. I know we have the town attorney sitting here this evening, and could I ask, Does this definition of elector serve the problems, Kevin, that we've talked about over the years about who may vote?
Yeah, I haven't seen this, Steve, so I could comment, but the idea that the definitions throughout the charter is absolutely our biggest problem. So I don't know what your new definition is.
At one time, it was a great concern is, what is an elector? And I just wondered if this definition solves that problem.
I'd have to look at it. But the problem needs to be addressed. I've recommended it for the last 7 charter revision committees.
We have the letter, yeah.
Yeah, the problem isn't just the definition of elector, it's that we ignore it through the charter. We use taxpayer, resident, elector, registered voter, you know what I mean? We willy-nilly use definitions through the charter. That is what has to be fixed. Whatever definition you settle on, it should be used throughout the charter.
Yep.
But I mean, that's,
Well,
I'm presuming this will end up on my desk eventually, but it hasn't yet.
Thanks.
well, I would suggest that we look at the process about what we're gonna do when we get down to the item down below, because the process too needs to involve Kevin in terms of everything that's in here. So I think if we all think about what specific points we want in a few minutes after we get to agenda item, what is it, Todd?
10A.
It's 10A. So right now, we still have a couple things to do. So when we get down to 10A, then I think we should make specific points, and then give it to the commission and ask them to go back and revise based on our recommendations.
So with that said, I'm happy to answer any more questions. But I would like those recommendations to come via the town clerk's office, correct? Is that how we plan on doing that?
Well,
The recommendations will come through the town clerk's office?
we'll come
Through
through
the minutes?
come through Todd as the mayor.
Todd, okay.
From this board,
Great,
filed with it'd be filed with the Charter Commission.
great,
via-
fantastic.
To
Yep,
you, and you file all your documents.
Yep, we'll take care of that.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Candace, earlier tonight, don't leave.
No.
You were asking a question regarding the Board of Tax Review, Board of Assessment Appeals, and I put a question mark onto that. It doesn't say, unless I'm not reading it correctly, who could be a member, right? Didn't you ask that question?
It doesn't say in any of these.
Was that?
It doesn't say in any of these. It sporadically does in some. So that's what, we really have to go back and look at.
That's where the definition needs to be applied.
Or it's applied at the under a Board of Selectmen area, if it applies to all of the commissions.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just at the top of the section, just put the board, for people to be eligible for boards or commissions, they must be an elector and a resident with exceptions noted. I mean, fancy legal language.
Yeah, to simplify how it works.
Right, so at the very beginning, you have to be an elector and resident unless otherwise specified. It could also be that.
It could be, and that could make it a lot simpler.
Right, and that could just be at the head of the section in the charter where that is, but I guess we're just gonna have to send it back and then work on all that stuff.
Yep, we can do that, but I do want to express some concern with your understanding that you said that there weren't any of them that defined it, but I feel as though maybe we could put them bubbled up to the beginning of the definition of each
We could
Or
do it
review.
multiple ways.
Right,
So
I
we don't-
understand
we
what
don't
you're
know
saying. I just want to make
exactly.
sure I'm on the same page because.
Right, we don't know exactly.
Because you're right, the Board of Tax Review or Board of Assessment Appeals, we didn't add the word elector in there because we went back and forth on that with an understanding that a resident, or that you may be a property owner, you may just be a plain old elector and not be a resident of town and need to be on
Yeah,
that
there
board.
are two.
But on the,
I think there are two board and commissions where there's a unique requirement.
correct.
That's all,
Correct.
I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, but like the ZBA, we did add resident to the elector because we did see that elector at large, and that was just silly. Yeah, great, I look forward to the feedback, thank you.
And don't worry, every time we have a charter panel, for the most part, it goes back.
Oh, that's great, no, that's great, it's an iterative process, that's
So
why I
it's
work
nothing
draft.
personal to anybody,
It's not-
it's always something that this has to get
Absolutely.
changed.
And
It's not
but-
an easy thing to do,
And again, how are we on the timing on this? We need to have this completed by August?
I think.
Yeah, I believe it's by the first Board of Selectmen meeting in August,
We're on
the
we're on
Charter Revision
target.
Commission needs to remit their changes to us.
So we need to get together and work on some of this.
Yeah, they have, no offense, but 25 days.
Yeah, that's actually, I think we have more time in the second half than we did in the first. So we're absolutely no problem at all.
That's okay, you're doing just fine.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, thank you for your work so far.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
It's not over.
Not today.
Moving on to citizens' comments, the Board of Selectmen welcomes public comment. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes or less and may speak only once this round. Anyone wish to speak?
Well, I'll go for it. I know you all know me. William Hester, 82 Boyd Street. And I'm just a little disappointed that I didn't see American flags out on Main Street this 4th of July as we celebrated our 246th birthday and the town did their 250th. As a son, a grandson, and many military and active military people in my family as we speak right now, I'm just a little disappointed that I didn't see it. I've been through towns, Millerton, New York, other towns, I think Barkhamsted, just to see a whole bunch of American flags hanging out on the poles. So it would have been really kind of nice. There are some, I actually counted them, the ambulance garage, the town hall, the bank, the community college, and I think that's just about it. So that's just all I have to say. It would have been kind of nice to see some out there.
I think the VFW used to put them up, but they don't, there are no fittings for them on the decorative poles on Main Street, so that can't be done. But I think there used to be coming like from the ambulance on the river side up there. I think the
It was just a
VFW used to.
beautiful sight going on Millerton on the 4th of July with a motorcycle ride with my wife, and that's why we weren't reading the declaration, but it was just absolutely beautiful seeing it. Thanks.
Thank you. Rob?
Rob Asplin, 228 Smith Hill Road, Winston. So I was at a recent meeting and it was brought to my attention that there is a grant being applied for the Elm Street Firehouse Bay Extension. I was wondering. I have a concern about a grant that's being applied for a bay extension at the Elm Street Firehouse. I was wondering if Josh could elaborate on that.
Yep, absolutely, I can elaborate on that. So, some years ago, before I even came on board, the Board of Selectmen had a conversation, and I'm not really sure how extensive those conversations were, but it was decided that there should be an investigation into what it would look like to revitalize the Elm Street Firehouse in a way that would add one bay on, if you're looking at it from the right, or sorry, straight on from Elm Street, it would add a bay on to the right-hand side, and it would demolish a portion of the building that's in a level of disrepair on the left-hand side, moving the parking that's on the right-hand side over to the left, which would allow for more space for the larger vehicles, which may allow us to even close one of the other firehouses, creating a level of efficiency. Money was set aside, again, some years ago, either 3 or 4 years ago, I think, in the capital improvement plan to get the architectural drawings for that going. We have a review that's underway with that space. And in order to make anything happen, though, without trying to overtax or tax at all our residents, we're trying to find as many grant dollars as possible to see if it's even feasible to make this vision become a reality.
So it's not really a bay extension, it's an addition to the building.
It is. It's a whole additional bay. So it's a bay
So you're
extension
not
in that it's an
extending a
additional
You're
bay.
adding on to the building,
Right.
a whole garage bay.
That's right. That's the vision.
And then the second concern was, this week I got, well, this past weekend, I got my tax bills, 6 of them, and they came in 6 individual envelopes with 6 return envelopes. So it seems like we're wasting money on postage and extra return envelopes. that would seem like we could save the town a lot of money if they did that to every household in Winston.
Absolutely. I personally only
I don't
received
see
one in the
why
mail, but
wouldn't
if
put
that's
them
the
all in
case for your tax
I got
bills,
6.
that's the first time I'm hearing of it, and we'll look into how we can make that more efficient.
Yeah, because I know
That's a
you're
great
using
point.
an outside vendor for some sources, but I don't know if it's for all of them.
Did you get an envelope, one bill for all of last year, or in one envelope last year?
No, same thing last year.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So
it's actually a new
nothing
service this year, so sorry that
Well,
that,
it's a different vendor.
right, it's a different
But
vendor.
it's, you're still getting
Property
6
buy.
envelopes each time.
Yeah, I get trailer.
Last year and the year
trailer,
before. This is
truck,
nothing new.
trailer, truck,
Okay,
house.
we'll look into it. Thank you for
Seems
bringing
like
it up.
an awful lot of postage being wasted. Save the taxpayers a couple dollars.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone else wish to speak? Moving on to the town manager's report.
Okay, thank you so much. So, first, the large item that I've been dealing with since we last met, and thank you to those of you, a lot of people right here in this room who express support either through their time, volunteering materials and supplies, or volunteering, or donating really money to help support the cats and the single ferret and 2 dogs that came out of a hoarding situation. By our estimation, the largest animal hoarding situation in Connecticut history to date, and hopefully ever. That's not something we ever want to see repeated again in any town. So just to make sure that everybody's up to date in case you haven't been following along, but there was a hoarding case in town. We're now estimating that as many as 200 or perhaps even over 200 cats were involved in this hoarding situation. The town was made aware of it, and under Connecticut general statutes, the municipality is liable and responsible for animals that are taken from any sort of negative home situation such as this. So the police department was made aware of it together with the state, as well as about a dozen other municipalities. We made a plan to go in and remove the animals from squalor and make sure that they were getting the care, attention, and overall veterinary attention, I should say, that they really needed. So in order to make that happen with 200 cats, we did have to utilize, and are still utilizing to a much smaller extent, the bachelor school, where we currently have 35 cats in our care that are one by one going to, well, not one by one, but groups by groups, going to the vet to make sure that they're all spayed and neutered, make sure that they're cared for, that they're getting proper medications in the event that they need it, and they're getting placed into proper shelters. So we have probably nearing, if not over, 150 cats that have already been placed at this point into shelters and rescues. It was a tremendous amount of time, energy, resources, and care that went into addressing this situation from our own staff, from the volunteers who are still out there, even tonight, making sure that those cats are getting food, water, medicine, and other forms of care, and that will be out there for the foreseeable future. So there are a lot of municipalities that deserve a very large thank you card from us, and they'll certainly be getting that for their support, what they provided us as a form of mutual aid. And there are a lot of individuals around this state and even from out of state. We received checks coming in, donations from Maine all the way down to Florida, the entire eastern seaboard, and a lot of spots in between. Thousands of dollars coming in to help support these cats, cover veterinary bills, and make sure that the town's in a good spot. None of the care that has gone to these cats has actually come out of the town of Winchester's coffers. It's that amazing, an outpouring of support. So again, thanks to everybody who's out there who has been a part of the solution to this. And we're going to continue to work to make sure that this never happens again. Beyond that, I don't have a lot of, because of this situation, a lot of detailed responses for you about some of the various items that we've been working on. I will say we've had 2 different, very exciting, in my opinion, businesses reach out to our economic development office to talk about opening up in town. And I think that things continue to move in a very positive direction. Some more people applying for the business startup program. And so forth. One of the larger updates that I want to give you is about our general liability insurance. After going through the motions, getting a number of different responses in for and quotes for our insurance, we have selected, after a very positive relationship with KERMA over many years, we've evaluated these responses and we've determined that with travelers insurance, we'll be able to get the same quality of product and the same level of coverage for $120,000 less than what we had before. And that's if you add both the town and the Board of Ed side together. That's a huge lump sum savings. And even if we see some higher percentage increases in the next couple of years, it's going to take nearly a decade for those costs to catch up to where we were with KERMA. And that was even after trying to negotiate that price down. So we have made a change in our insurance that was effective July 1st of this year. We are still seeking a building official. If anybody's out there who is interested, who has some construction experience, building experience, who is a building official or an assistant building official, we are looking for your application to come in the door. That application window closes on July 11th, so that's, I believe, this coming Monday. Please get your applications in. And our next meeting will be on July 18th at 7 p.m. right here. On a Monday.
Can I ask you a question about the KERMA? Did you see a percentage of savings at all? Did you have a number?
Sorry, I could calculate that really quick, but it's we're down to it's like $520,000, I believe, that we'll be paying, at least from the town side, and it's $120,000 in savings. So if you do the math out, we were paying over $600 before. I could figure out that percentage.
Okay, when does that
savings.
go into effect?
That went into effect July 1st.
So that'll lower the town's cost and the board education's
Yes,
cost?
in this fiscal year.
Thank you.
That's a direct savings to us right now.
My second question is the investigation complete on the cats?
It is not. I did hear an update from the chief of police today. Investigations ongoing on a number of different facets of the case, and I believe that I can't speak to when it will conclude, but I don't think that it will be long, from what I heard.
Thank you.
Other questions?
No, just a good comment. Nice job on all the work you put into the cat issue. Lots of hours, I understand, and as you have said, other things had to be pushed aside because you just didn't have enough hours in the day to do it. But it seems like the publicity on that was very positive all the way. Nice job.
Was Kim Maynard the only veterinarian that came down, or were other veterinarians?
Kim Maynard's the only veterinarian that was on site with us. We did also have a couple of vet techs that supported her that were able to rotate through, but she has been down at that school the majority of the days since the town took possession of cats. She's done she's made a Herculean effort to see to the care of these cats, and the Canton Emergency Veterinary Clinic was also a part of our response and continues to be.
Big thank you to both of those. Moving on, any other questions for Josh? Moving on to correspondence. Anyone have anything? Seeing nothing, moving on to boards and commissions.
Thank you, Todd. We have no appointments or nominations this evening. None of the terms are up during this month. But we do see, if you saw on the bottom of the worksheet we all received, we are looking for members on the following boards. For example, the Board of Assessment Appeals, we're looking for one alternate member. Conservation Commission, we're looking for one member. Recreation Board, looking for one member. Laurel City Commission, looking for 5 members. And Retirement Board, looking for 1 member. So if any of our viewers out there are considering volunteering, we are looking for your involvement. Thank you. That's it, Todd.
Thank you, Steve. Moving on to new business. Item A, consider and possibly act on charter revision presented at the public hearing.
Who's, somebody going to take notes to send to them? I don't have a pen, I just have my computer, so.
Yeah, I can.
All right, so I think based on what I heard you all say, we want them to look at putting a section just above section 601 in between Article 6, officers and boards directly responsible to the Board of Selectmen. In between that, maybe put a statement, look into putting the statement, all appointees to the Board of to the boards and commissions must be an elector in the town of Winchester, or a resident in the town of Winchester, or both, with the exception as noted, maybe, to look into language for that. I think we want to look at the 2 that they did not say anything about in terms of resident, and what's not, was the Board of Tax Review, which you're calling Board of Assessment Review, and Recreation was one. There were 2 sections for the town clerk that Candace had. Those were numbers
202 and 203.
202 and 203. Candace, you were talking about specifically identifying within each commission whether they, does that catch-all cover what you were saying?
Well, yeah, no, what I was saying that we need to look at is a board of, I don't know exactly, I don't have the charter in front of me, so I can't really talk to it, is where the Board of Selectmen is the party that appoints these positions. And in that section, maybe that's where we say what they have to be.
Well, that would be here, just above them all, maybe, what I just said, commented on. Just above 601, right in there, because they all run under
Oh,
there.
I see, they do. There might be another section, too. I think we should look at another section. I don't know how you could put that in there, a
Well, just drop
recap,
it.
because I don't know that you can just drop something. I think everything
Well,
has to
most
have
of
a
them
section.
have the last sentence. Shall be determined by the Board of Selectmen.
Right, but I think by the Board of Selectmen, what those people are, what qualifies them to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. I think there's somewhere else in the charter where it says the Board of Selectmen appoint members of the boards and commission, and except for the town manager. I don't remember what the section is.
I know what you're talking about then.
I know.
All right, so for that, and our list of charges, back to the Charter Revision Commission, was to be to look at the the qualifications the Board of Selectmen makes, or has, the responsibility the Board of Selectmen has to appoint members of these commissions.
We'll look up the
language on
section
that.
number.
And then the very important thing is that that what they have and should be sent to the town attorney immediately for
Review.
language and review. Because we can't go too much further. I mean, they could spend all month doing it, but it's good to get the town attorney in there now, because if there's something wrong, it's gotta be fixed now. And I think did I cover everything everybody said?
I just have one comment. I don't know how everybody feels about Economic Development Commission. I've been the liaison there for 5 years, and I think one time as a member of the subcommittee, we've had someone who was a business owner in town who wanted to be a member of the commission, and we said no. Otherwise, we have never, ever had any business person interested in joining the commission.
We have one now,
We have someone now
not a resident.
on the board.
A realtor.
So do you want a business person to be on, or?
He's a
is that where
prop-
you're
he's a-
going?
I don't know. I
He's
don't
a
know
pro-
how
yeah,
we-
he's
how
a
do we
property
feel?
owner.
Yeah.
He's a
okay,
business
okay, no,
owner,
that's
but he
right.
doesn't reside here
But
anymore.
But when he was on the board,
When he was appointed, he was a
he
resident.
was a resident and
He's
moved,
right.
okay, so that should have been corrected.
So what do you,
I don't know, how do we feel about
Well, it's our choice.
non-residents?
It's our choice to
I think-
appoint them.
Non-residents being members of our community economic development, this is our town. Just as, we have the ad hoc commissions, what is that? Those are up for, committees that, and those are made up of people that don't live in town, or vote in town.
well, I guess,
So
from my point of view, like, if we look at economic development, let's just take that for a minute. You know, I think somebody that has a business here in town, who owns the business in town.
Pays
You know,
taxes.
they pay personal property taxes, they pay maybe property taxes on the, building itself, and has been involved in it, I think could be vital to economic development. I think there has to be a connection here. It just can't be some, like, the example given was like an architect from somewhere else comes, you know, that lives, let's say, in Burlington and just happens to be on our commission. I don't think he'd be there. I think there's gotta be a string, a connection tied to it. So like, I would have no problem if there was a business person on here that owns here and pays the taxes here. I mean, it could also be no more than like 40%, no more than 50%, but I think it's okay to put people on it.
Okay.
And that's, I guess, what everybody has to figure out, including voters, when it gets to them for this, is how do you feel about that? Is, how do you know, which way do we all think benefits in this case, benefits and gives us the best chance to develop businesses and progress here in town,
Okay,
so.
so there's no language in section 602 regarding an elector or resident, and
Right.
that's okay,
So,
and that's okay.
right, so the reason is if we are the body that appoints them, we can stop that. Okay, so we can look at that and analyze it. Do we think that person's a right fit? You know, so, you know, what is their vested interest in the town? And again, it may be one vote of all of the people that are on that board. But it's also a different perspective, too, so.
So we would want the charter commission to, you know, relook at that.
So that would be the same for economic development, then the recreation, or park and recreation board as well. I didn't realize that, didn't have any language for electors or residents.
Well, that's, I think, why we started this entire quest, was because
Okay.
Kevin, how many times have we asked you for, like, can we appoint this person, can we appoint that person?
You know, all the time.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what led us to this
Yeah.
charter revision, was to correct this whole section so that we didn't have to go ask Kevin that question anymore. That it was clear to the board and clear to whoever was reading the charter, who could and who could not be on each board or commission.
So I think it should be clear on the definition, right first, in the first sentence.
Right.
Well, that's what it's gonna be at the top of the section. That says, a statement of all appointed electors in the town of Winchester with the exceptions noted in the paragraph.
But the problem is, everything has to have a section. It can't be just like little
Yeah.
instructions up top. It's a
Right,
charter.
it has each,
So it would have to be under where, I'm trying to look it up, where the Board of Selectmen, that's their duty, is to appoint the members of any board or commission, and these are the qualifiers or something, you know.
Right, so
I can't look on my
it's
phone.
under section 315, maybe page 10.
315.
So basically, it goes back to the charter commission, which has public meetings, which means that we all, Kevin, Josh, and the rest of us can help get to and anybody in the public can help get to making the language clear so that we know it, and everybody knows. So, we're not gonna figure it out right this second.
Right.
I mean, if we did, we'd be really good at it, but it'll go back to them and it should come back, I think, in the way we want it.
My one question for the board is, they added to some of the sections, members shall serve without compensation. Do we want to put that on all of the boards and commissions, or just leave it on the ones that they added it to?
It probably should be with, when you're identifying who can qualify, that everyone is. They're not getting compensation. No one is.
It simplifies as much as possible.
Right, just eliminate it from the, see, my issue with it is that if you go to Canton and you look at it, it tells you what the commission and what it does, who qualifies to be on it. It's like there's A, B, C, D for each one. You know, ours is just,
Well, with some exceptions.
Yeah.
I get the exceptions, like EDC is an exception.
Right.
Recreation may be an exception. Yep. We have made an exception for the water and sewer. That's an exception. It's not you don't have to be an elector, but you have to be a user.
Well,
If you're a
they're
user, you
separate
are an
from
elector.
us.
Todd, the catch-all phrase would go in section 315.
Thank you.
Anything else on?
Can't find anything on that phone.
All right, moving on to citizens' comments. Anyone wish to speak? Selectmen's comments and reports.
Yeah, as we talked about all the things that have been happening in town, I hope most of you
Let's go to
have
executive.
seen the Wall Street Journal article. A very positive article about people moving to this area, what rural attractions there are. We've talked for years about what a vital place we are in, what a wonderful attraction we can be. And as we see that, economic development continues to grow around us. So that, I really thought that was a really good report. Did everybody get a chance to see that?
Yes.
Wall Street Journal
Yes.
article? No?
Yep, I saw it.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you can get it around, I think.
Yeah, I'll print a copy for anyone who wants it. I have it.
Yeah, it's good to see. The other thing, I'd just like to comment on the letter that you sent to whom it may concern about Henry. Nicely done, nicely written.
Do we want that into public record, or?
Leave that up to you. It does
Was that
not have
in-
to be.
Was that in our online packet?
No, it was just shared with you.
Oh,
I'm just wondering why it was addressed to whom it may concern. Should it not have been addressed directly to the district attorney or whoever?
I have a feeling that over the course of this hearing, at least personally, I'm not sure if Todd agrees that there are going to be a number of people who read it. It's always my thought that if more than one person needs to feel and understand the message behind a letter, to whom it may concern, leaves it open for that interpretation.
Right, was nicely written. Nice job.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, at 8:02, I'd like to adjourn to executive session, taking with us the town attorney. Can I have a motion?
and town manager.
And town manager?
So moved?
Thank you, Jonathan.
Second.
Thank you, Candace. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Yeah. No, there isn't anything else. I just wasn't sure if it was something we wanted to tack to our proverbial wall before you all had it. Everybody had a chance to see it. Obviously, you saw it before.
All right. We're gonna go to the blue room again, so Glenn doesn't have to shut down.
We have to make sure the DTC's out.
Okay.
Walking out of there.
Okay.
Either that or probate. We'll try not to be,
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here tonight.
I didn't get it, Josh.
try not to be
Todd,
again.
It's all good.
Todd, I didn't get that letter.
I feel it tunes in during the
The one he's talking about, the
She keeps tuning in to see where we are then and says, it's funny, tuning in, seeing Glenn sitting there all by himself, like, where'd the meeting go? It meant a lot. Went there a couple of times.
There's no rooms on this floor. No rooms on the floor. You have to go third floor.
Where are we going?
Third floor.
this is wrong. We didn't vote unanimously. No, we didn't. Steve abstained.
I thought Steve voted for it.
No, ask him. Steve,
He abstained.
huh? He abstained. You abstained on the Henry thing, right? The vote for Henry.
my name on there?
No, it's not, but it says unanimously, but it's not correct. I don't think. Anyway, we gotta check it. We gotta go across the hall. across the hall. I think I remember. You have a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it was an honor to be here.
Glenn, you're gonna be alone.
That's all right. Good therapy.
Last time they were there until 11 o'clock.
executive session and,
was just after the meeting I was gonna ask.
I just had to,
So,
I gotta run off all the descriptions of that, property descriptions and attaching that.
okay. That's great, because we got a few projects that are ready to move.
Got that ocean garden money?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta show me greenbacks.
I'm excited. I think they seem excited too, so that's the good thing. No, I haven't gotten a final report. I heard from Steve that it was relatively quiet compared to other years. I don't know, I was actually not in town last week. This is my first 4th of July. That particular.
All right, we are back from executive session at 8:45. I think 8:02 to 8:45. The board, can I have a motion to appoint? Candy?
I'll make a motion to appoint Kevin Nelligan as our town attorney.
Second that?
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you,
I'll
Kevin.
wait to hear from you when you want me, so
Yeah.
quarterly.
You got it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kevin.
Kevin.
you.
Good night.
All right. Steve?
Move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.
Summer concerts on Thursday.
This Thursday?
Yep. Why are we in a strategic meeting?
Cats put that on hold.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.